Carlos Nelson with the Kansas City Business Association, and tonight we have someone that is running for the Kansas City School Board. Who do we have here?
Mark Wasserstrom, Subdistrict 5.
Give him that last name again.
Wasserstrom.
That's why I said, who do we have here? Hey, Mark, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you come from.
Well, I come from right here in Kansas City. I grew up here. My mom and dad grew up here. And 3 of my 4 grandparents came to Kansas City directly from Europe, and the 4th one came here from Topeka, Kansas. Family rumor has that the Topeka branch of the family somehow found its way here from Philadelphia, but that has not been confirmed.
What school did you go to here?
I went to Border Star for elementary school, and then I went to Southwest High School.
Southwest? All right. Tell our audience what district you're running for, and tell them the boundaries.
I'm running in Subdistrict 5. Subdistrict 5 on the west side is bordered by Brookside Boulevard, basically Warnell Road, and then it goes to the eastern edge of the school district, which is over by Blue Ridge Boulevard. It wiggles around some. The northern part of the district is around 43rd Street, and it goes to the southern edge of the district, which is 85th Street. Now, thanks to a very odd process that we just went through last year, we have a new map of the district.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to see what the results of the election are, because I think they will be profound. The biggest change is not reducing the size of the board from 9 members to 7 members, although statistically that has a very insidious
How do you think? All right. How do you think that's going to affect the African American community?
Well, I think it's going to change the balance of control of the school district from a group in which the vote is a majority black to one that's not
African American. Yeah.
I think it's going to be 50-50 with the deciding vote Hispanic. Mania Bark is running unopposed, so
right.
I think he'll be the swing vote.
All right. Tell me this. In the past, how have you seen the elected officials on that board perform for the district? Or what's your opinion on that?
Well, I have been following the board specifically just over the last handful of years. I grew up in Kansas City, so I remember some of the myths surrounding the school board. Growing up, the school board had a great deal of community support and respect. The people who ran for school board were community leaders. Now this last cycle, we had some good hardworking people. I think Melissa Robinson was a great leader, but some of the people, the representative from my district, didn't even show up for meetings.
All right. Do you think there's a lack of leadership?
Well, I think that it's a peculiar type of leadership. There's different kinds of leadership. I think we have some people that are very, very astute when it comes to education. When you talk about Patty Mansour or Jennifer Wolfsey, these are dedicated individuals. They're serious individuals. They're good board members. They're nice people. However, in terms of community leaders, they are a cheerleading squad. They are there. Thankfully, we have a good superintendent, but you're not seeing policy come out of the board.
All right. And, well, That's all over Kansas City. You were looking at that interview with Crosby, and I was in his interview. I was saying, what do you think the downtown council, their leadership, and there's been an absence of leadership, and he somewhat agreed that there has been, but people are getting more engaged. And as it relates to the school district, if we don't have a strong school district, we can't really look to entice young professionals to move in the urban core or the downtown, I think. What's your opinion on that?
Well, I think Kansas City has leadership. It's just that people like you and me don't ever hear their names and never talk to them. And one of the great leaders in Kansas City in recent history that I knew reasonably well was Stan Durwood of American Multi
I knew
Cinema.
Stan pretty well.
That guy got things done.
But that was a different era. Really?
Not that long ago.
But things have changed.
The whole point is that in terms of voters and people just working jobs, they barely
I'm going to
knew
switch
who he
gears.
was.
Do you think the corporate community is paying their fair share to help uplift the Kansas City School District?
Absolutely not, and that's one of the few things I really have a good amount of confidence that I can change.
What's your platform? Tell our audience what your platform is.
Have the Country Club Plaza pay about $2 million more in real estate taxes. Very simple. All they have to do is follow the law. All Jackson County has to do is follow the law. When the Country Club Plaza was sold in 2017, it sold for $660 million. The definition of fair market value of real estate is what it sells for. That's it. So after the ink was dry, the money changed hands. Then it came time to
I like that.
It came time to set up the tax account for the property tax. So the boys down at the assessor's office said, "Now look, we're all friends. Let's put it down $400 million instead of $660."
Well, that's the same thing Mr. Kemple was saying.
Yeah, well, but he was talking about taxing increment.
Yeah, but I'm
finance.
saying my whole thing, whether it's increment financing, TIF, PIAC, it's always.
But it gets worse. Yeah, the $400 million wasn't good enough. So they said, no, that's just not fair. Not fair. So they sharpened their pencil. Nobody went to court. This was all done right there in the office of the courthouse. They finally went back and forth and came up with between 150 and 160 million. Roughly 25% of the sales price was declared the fair market value. Now the Kansas City Star picked up on it. Why? They heard from Crosby Kemper, his belly aching about it. Rightfully.
Right.
And so they ran a couple articles, and one of the reporters called over to the county and said, "How can you guys do this?" And they said, "Fairness, fairness. All the other commercial real estate around the plaza is so far underassessed, it wouldn't be fair to charge those
How do you
guys."
think that affects the African American community? Those type of moves.
It affects everybody by choking money away from an essential government function. It's part of an overall neocon agenda. They don't want government. They want rich people to run our country, and government gets in the way. So you want to have as small a government as you can get. And what's the best way to choke down government? Just don't give government any money to work with.
What do you think about charter schools?
Well, the whole thing is if you have schools where it's difficult to get kids to read and write. I mean, I have two boys. I have a responsibility as a parent, so I do not criticize parents who look at the situation and say, based on our choices, we think the best thing for our child is to go to a charter school.
Right.
That's what a parent's supposed to do. But looking at it from a broader perspective, I say, my God, as a community, we mold our character of our next generation in the schools. And we can't balkanize. We can't chop up our community so we have a little ghetto here and a little ghetto there.
You can't have a healthy Kansas City, period, that.
We need to have the whole community participate. The thing that upsets me, look, I'm not...
What's your plan to make them participate if you get on?
Well, I want as a matter of policy, for us not to give up on engaging the entire community, but to figure out a way to get participation of the entire community in the public school system.
What do you think about sports in the public schools?
Well, traditionally, that has always been important. Look, I was a wrestler in high school. I was the shortest guy in my grade school class. I was one of the shorter people at Southwest. I was not a star candidate for any kind of athletics.
Mm-hmm.
In 8th grade, I let my folks know that, by golly, I was going to go out for football. And my folks were very broad-minded people, so they didn't want to say, Mark, forget it, we forbid it. No, that's not how they operated. Dad had one of his partners drive him home from work, and he invited his friend who had gone through the University of Missouri Law School with him into the house. And Dad disappeared to fix a cocktail for both of them. And his friend came over, put his arm around me. He says, Mark, I hear you're going to go out for football. Don't you know that you're going to get the shit kicked out of you? And the way he said it, non-dramatic, just
right.
matter of fact, sent a chill up and down my spine.
Well, this is what I'm wanting to say. Do you think our facilities in the KC school district are par with the competition and the suburban districts?
Oh, of course not. The most exciting couple of meetings this past year at the school board was when all the kids from Northeast came. Dr. Bedell, for some very technical reasons, postponed the vote of the final approval on the contract for the new football team. It looked like half of Northeast High School showed up at the board meeting. That was important to the teachers, to the kids, to everybody, and by God, they wanted to be there to see what happened.
The reason I said that was when you go to these suburban schools, because we have a sports branch to this company, and they have 3-4 gyms to practice, where the urban core, they have one gym and everybody's got to practice in it. The soccer team, the cheerleaders, and what have you. And that's been for some time. They're trying to upgrade. What is your feeling on that?
Well, I think it's important to get the general community engaged with the kids and realize that it's important to shell out money, not just tax money. If you want to have sports leagues, a lot of activity in sports leagues like 3-2 baseball have nothing to do with the school system, but the families realize, it's just like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. It's something for young men and young women to do, to learn how to work together, form a team, and set goals and work on their goals and make something of themselves.
Do you have any, in closing, do you have anything that you want to get across to potential voters for you? Let it out.
Well, I'm on the Freedom Inc. team. We have Adams going on the Freedom team in the 4th District. I think he's a strong, powerful, vocal candidate.
We know that. Man has a history.
Yeah, no, but I think he'll be good on the board, and I encourage everybody to get out. The last election cycle, 0.4% of the registered voters bothered voting in the school district. There were school board positions that were elected based on 600-700 votes. That is an embarrassment for this community.
It's not, let me. I'm not making any excuses for the community. Besides, the community has disengaged itself in politics and the school board issues per se. Most people didn't even know that the board had flipped and how things were, because I learned about the flip of the school board and the downsizing like the Thursday before that Tuesday where you couldn't apply to register for any positions. And I made some calls to some very influential people and said, do you know that you don't really have anybody running for blah, blah, blah? And they said, no. I said, did you know that the whole board, and this was taking place around the country from my understanding, because I had done an interview with Melissa and we talked about it. No, they didn't know. And so I don't think that the district really gives my grassroots people the information that they need to make intelligent decisions on things that are affecting basically their kids.
Well, Carlos, you just uncovered a great big secret that nobody's talked about. You know, I was interested because I decided about a year ago that, by golly, I'm retired. I want to do something positive with my time. I'm going to run for school board, okay? And then I heard, well, there's going to be new districts, and there were 6 maps being debated. I don't know how much difference there was between the 6. The school board had very little to do with any of the maps. It was the Board of Election Commissioners in charge. But the bottom line is, I wanted to find out what my district was and what the boundary lines were. So I called the Board of Election Commissioners, and I called every week. Is the map set yet? Do you know the boundaries? Finally, they adopted the map, and I got the fella in charge of maps. And
now, tell me
it gets better. And I said, can I come down and pick up a map? He says, well, the big maps aren't ready. I'll email you a map. He sent something, I could barely read it. I said, I can't, everything's too small. Just tell me the streets that are the boundary line. I have an email from the Board of Election Commissioners after the map was adopted that said the western boundary line was truced. Not true. About 25%, between 25%.
But see, the point I'm trying to make,
west of truce.
The point I'm trying to make to you and to our audience, you said you were interested in all of this, and look what you went through. Now, the average parent that has a kid in the Kansas City School District, they're not going to be doing all of that. And off camera, didn't I say that talking in layman's terms to our community, keeping it simple, hey, this is not going to be good for you, and these are the reasons why. None of that comes to our community, in my estimation, in the time frame and in the language that can be absorbed by the people, the majority of people who have their kids in this district. And personally, I would like to, like I said, know, how do you plan to change that?
Well, I would like to pick up on a mantra that started to be talked about by the school board 2 years ago when they met with the Kansas City Star. Matthew Oates and Patty Mansour talked with the Star and said, we need to go back to neighborhood schools. Now, it sounded good, but I haven't seen that push.
Yeah, all right.
I just haven't seen it implemented.
Well, let's wrap it on up. And it was a pleasure having you on the show. And I think that you gave some insight and some informative information on different parts and how the district operates and the difficulties that you've had, and you've given pretty good reason why you want to run.
Well, thanks for having me.
This program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.